Welcome to Child Welfare Audio Navigator. Child Welfare Audio Navigator is an audio resource guide to child welfare system. The main purpose is to promote public awareness in supporting families and keeping children safe in the community. If you are listening to this informing dialogue, maybe you are involved with the child welfare system, or perhaps you know somebody who is, or you are interested in knowing about the system and its work in supporting families and keeping children safe. Child abuse and neglect is a serious concern to every community. The child abuse that takes place in 1 year in the United States will cost the nation $124 billion over the victims' lifetimes, according to a new report from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. No child should ever be the victim of abuse or neglect, nor do they have to be. The human and financial costs can be prevented through prevention of child maltreatment, said Linda C. Digitis, Director of CDC National Center for Injury Prevention and Control. More than 740,000 children and youth are treated in hospital emergency departments as a result of violence each year. That's more than 84 every hour. More than 3 million reports of child maltreatment are received by state and local agencies each year. It's nearly 6 reports every minute. Each community has a moral and legal obligation to promote the safety, permanency, and well-being of children. This responsibility includes responding effectively to child maltreatment. At the state and local levels, professionals assume various roles and responsibilities ranging from prevention, identification, and reporting of child maltreatment, intervention, assessment, and treatment. Child Protective Services (CPS) agencies, along with law enforcement, play a central role in receiving and investigating reports of child maltreatment. To protect children from harm, CPS also relies on community members to identify and report suspected cases of child maltreatment, including physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, and psychological maltreatment. Many community professionals, including healthcare providers, mental health professionals, educators, legal and court system personnel, are involved in responding to child abuse and neglect and providing needed services. Furthermore, community-based agency staff, substance abuse treatment providers, domestic violence victim advocates, clergy, extended family members, and concerned citizens also play important roles in supporting families and keeping children safe. Moreover, Child Welfare Navigator helps you to understand the laws and policies within the child welfare system, which direct the actions and decisions of CPS workers, the police, lawyers, and the courts. You will hear family members talk about their experiences with agency workers, the service systems they work in, their roles, and what families could expect when they are involved with child protective services. Finally, you will learn various ways to advocate for children and families' rights and responsibilities of a parent or a caregiver involved with the system. While the Child Welfare Navigator is comprehensive in scope and touches on major issues, it cannot reflect all the detailed information related to this complex problem. It is intended, therefore, as a starting point to understanding the work Child Protective Services, the courts and other child and family serving agencies do to ensure the safety, permanency, and well-being of children.
You may ask, what does Child Protective Services do? Child Protective Services, CPS, is a specialized part of the child welfare system, which focuses on families in which a child has been identified as a victim of abuse, or in danger of child abuse or neglect. This also may be called child maltreatment. State laws require Child Protective Services agencies to do the following. 1. Take reports from people who believe a child has been abused or neglected. 2. Find out if abuse or neglect has occurred. 3. Ensure that there is a plan in place to keep children safe. 4. Provide services to families to ensure their children's safety. What is child abuse and neglect under federal law? A federal law called the Child Abuse Protection and Treatment Act says that child abuse and neglect is any recent act, or failure to act, on the part of a parent or caretaker which results in death or serious physical or emotional harm, or sexual abuse or exploitation, or presents an imminent risk of serious harm. There are several types of abuse and neglect. Some states may have slightly different definitions for abuse and neglect. How do you define physical abuse? Physical abuse is causing injury to a child by beating, kicking, biting, burning, shaking, or other ways of harming the child. Sometimes even when a parent does not intend to hurt the child, a child's injuries may be legally labeled as abuse. For example, the injury may have been the result of over-discipline or physical punishment. The law holds the parent responsible for the safety of the child, even when someone else in the home causes the injury. How do you define child neglect? Child neglect is failure to provide for a child's basic needs. This includes a child's physical, educational, medical, and emotional needs. Sometimes neglect of a child happens when a parent has a drug, alcohol abuse problem or some form of mental illness. When you do not have enough money to take care of a child's basic needs, does not mean a parent is being neglectful. It may mean that the parent needs assistance. When deciding if a child is neglected, CPS worker usually considers cultural practices or differences. This is to make sure that a family is not wrongly accused of abuse or neglect. How do you define sexual abuse? Sexual abuse includes any type of sexual activity or sexual contact by a parent or other caregiver with a child. Taking advantage of a child through prostitution or pornography is also considered to be sexual abuse. How do you define emotional abuse? Emotional abuse includes actions of a caregiver that can hurt a child's emotional health, such as screaming and name-calling. Other acts such as rejecting or withholding affection are also forms of emotional abuse. What is child abuse under California law? California Penal Code 273D law defines child abuse as the willful infliction of a cruel or inhuman corporal punishment or any injury that results in a traumatic condition. Simply, this means that you may be charged with California child abuse if you intentionally harm a child, and it results in a visible or internal injury. You do not have to cause the child great bodily injury or harm. You could be charged, even in a minor injury. Examples of corporal injury or punishment on a child include, but are not limited to, hitting, punching, slapping, or kicking a child, pushing a child, shaking a child, choking a child, burning a child, throwing an object at a child. Spanking a child is typically excluded from California child abuse law, as parents do maintain a right to discipline their children reasonably, in the manner they see fit. The bottom line is you will likely be prosecuted for corporal punishment on a child if you commit any physical act that results in injury to a child.